So hello and welcome to Stories from the Pack from the Wolves Fancast. Ryan Hooper here as ever, and before we kick off the episode, just a very quick thank, as I always like to do, to everybody who continues to support the podcast, be it this series, our regular pods. Really do appreciate that, so thank you. On this series, it really gives me a great opportunity, and I feel privileged that I can at least virtually connect with people that I wouldn't perhaps ordinarily get the opportunity to do so. People from different walks of life as well, but all sharing the same connection, which is effectively being a Wolves fan. And the next guy you're going to hear from really fits that bill. So I'm going to introduce to you a producer and a DJ, Chris Eddowes, who's also known as Pogman. How you doing?
How you doing, mate? Yeah, not bad, not bad. You know, just still recovering really from the West Ham game, but
yeah. We're recording this just the week lead up to the Fulham game, and as Chris said,
sorry, mate, I didn't realise.
No, you're absolutely fine, and hopefully when this goes out, we're in a bit of a better position. But yeah, as we are now, we're reeling from it because I don't know. I don't think anybody saw it coming, West Ham or us, did they? Really?
It was a bit of a madden, really. I've put it down to it's just one of them games. Everybody has them. It happens to everyone. I think we might have gone in a little bit, maybe underestimating them after their last season wasn't the greatest. They've not really strengthened, which is, in my head, I was like, oh, we're going to steamroll them. You know, they've not really done anything. And then, but yeah, there's we could talk about what went wrong in that game for hours. So just one of them things, man. You know, roll on to Fulham. If we don't get a convincing result at Fulham, I think it could be slight panic maybe.
I'm feeling it already, and I think I was having a look on Twitter today, and I think Villa have signed a couple of players, and then that's kind of irked a few people, and it's like, but I don't know, I'm as objective as I can be, because I kind of like to keep an even keel, and that's kind of how I feel, because it's like, yeah, it was awful, but the new lads, they're going to take time, as they've done before. So
I think this season's going to be a tricky season for us, I think, because we're obviously trialling a new not maybe a new system, but maybe a newer system moving forward, stepping away from that just all-out counter-attacking football that we've played for so long. So, yeah, I mean, if we can stay top half this season and get the new system to sort of work, get the new lads settled in, I'll be happy with that, to be honest.
Well, let's see how the season unfolds. On this series, it's all kind of a little bit about going down memory way. So we've addressed a little bit of the current, and we'll probably circle back to it. But just before we move on to the football, obviously in my introduction, producer, DJ, also label manager as well, I believe.
Yeah.
This year, as we know, it's been a difficult year on a lot of different levels, and we know there's a health perspective to it, which we're respectful for, but we also know from an industry perspective, I mean, my wife, for example, works in the travel industry. She lost a job. Employment is tough out there, and I think you'll know more so than I will, because I'm in a different industry, but from what I hear, being in the creative industry, to give it that title, have you been overlooked, do you think, in terms of sort of support, or have you had to adapt, and how do you see things at the moment, and how has it curtailed your own plans as well?
I mean, first of all, it just is what it is. We've got to accept it, and I think, as bad as it sounds, in a better way, it's happening to everybody. Like I said, as bad as that sounds, it's not just we're the ones getting screwed, It's happening to quite a lot of people at the moment in a lot of different industries. But, I mean, if we were to talk about, my industry, specifically, obviously, the main thing with us is our industry completely revolves around mass gatherings of people. And, that's, one of the first and main things that's gone. And it's going to be probably one of the last things that's going to come back. So, the big hit for me was 10 years of Pogman. This was my 10th year of touring, and so we had a massive year planned. We had the 10-year tour, we had a 10-year album that was coming, and it was all sort of going to be a big come together of celebrating everything we've done for the last 10 years. So, and we really had the ball rolling on that. And then, next thing we know, March, I'd just come back from Barcelona actually with the Wolves, and I came back from Barcelona. I came home for one day and I went straight to America to see the missus and to play a few shows.
Yeah.
And I was coming back to do a festival in Belgium, which 2 days before I flew home got cancelled because the wheels had really started turning with this COVID coronavirus thing. And by the time I got back, a week later, we were in lockdown, and then literally the whole industry and everything just changed overnight. And it's been a weird one, really, because everybody's guessing, we'll be back in September. Now it's September and we know when they're being back. We'll be back in January. I can't really see that happening. I remember at the very start, they were talking about next August. And I was laughing at that, like, next August, no chance, we'll be back soon. And now, even next August's looking a bit like, who knows, you know what I mean?
It's mad, and it's, I see sort of, locally, I saw one of the nightclub owners mention, and they were right, with the pubs, they have curfews, but not, outside entertainment. And I know there's adaptations to it and what they've done, but as you say, for yourself, I've seen some of your stuff online as a DJ, I guess, essentially, he's mass gatherings, that is your bread and butter. It must be difficult. I mean, I guess you can't plan for anything like this, but has it kind of helped you creatively in any other ways? Have you kind of had time to do anything you wouldn't ordinarily do, or?
I must admit, it's been quite a bit of an eye opener, and also maybe a bit of a nudge, to be honest, because I'm 32 now. I've been touring for 10 years, and it's sort of getting to the point where I don't want to stop touring, but I was getting prepared to maybe slow down a little and maybe start looking at other avenues. So COVID's kind of been a boot up the arse to really look into them avenues. And I'm lucky enough to have done a lot of work with my old college that I went to in Birmingham, a place called Access. And I've been an ambassador for them guys for years now, because I attended over 10 years ago now. And since my sort of success in my career, they brought me back in to do a lot of sort of public speaking, a lot of sort of an ambassador to try, and I work with them in many different ways, really. So I've started working with them guys a lot more, which is, a help. I've started to do a little bit of management as well. I'm managing a few guys who live out in Australia, and I've got a guy who I manage who lives in London. So it's I wouldn't say it's been a blessing in disguise, because obviously I would love to still be doing the touring and everything. And I imagine I will do when it all comes back. I'm never going to sort of step away, but it's been, sort of a nudge to be like, okay, all of a sudden things can change overnight. Nobody saw this coming, but it's kind of made me adapt and look for new avenues, which is quite nice, because now it's a new learning curve for me as well, getting into them sort of things, and it's only going to prolong my sort of career and my chance to stay in the music industry for as long as possible, because I've done it for so long now that I'd feel alien, sort of like, I wouldn't say not even just DJing or anything, but just working in a different industry would be crazy for me. So as long as I can stay within the creative industry, more music based, I mean, I'm a big fan of all the arts and stuff as well. I do a little bit of art and stuff, but music's obviously my main thing. So if I can stay in the music bubble for the rest of my career, my working life, I suppose, that would be perfect. So it's been a little bit of a eye opener, but also a positive in some of the new sort of roads I've gone down. So.
And I think I saw, because I was trying to do a bit of research before we got recording tonight, and I think what you're referencing there, I think there was an event in August, was it, in terms of the college, where you were on a panel, were you, in terms of people that come together who were maybe struggling in the industry, they could reach out to you and a few of us with the college, and younger, I guess, musicians who perhaps through lockdown haven't made those connections, because I guess connections are quite personal as well in the industry. So
it's very network based, this industry is, it's and you'll know as well as me, meeting somebody face to face is way more personal, and you get it a lot. It's it's a big thing for me. You know, an email, a text, anything in text can be taken weirdly. There's no emotion behind it, and as stupid as it sounds, like I'm a big fan of meeting people face to face. I mean, even this is great compared to an email. Like at least it feels like we've actually met each other, which is much nicer than just, you know, typing away on an email. But so what we did, I think it was the breakout session you were referring to?
Yeah.
So what we've done is one of the courses they offer at the old college that I went to is an artist development course, which is for sort of guys who've already got their sort of foot in the door. So they're you know, they're making music. They've sort of got a brand. They kind of know where they want to go, but they sort of maybe need that next push up the ladder, or they need just a help up or something. So we opened it up to sort of applicants to get involved, and we've chose a group now because that project's still ongoing. We actually had a meeting with 4 of the guys who got onto the course on Monday. We've got another meeting tomorrow, and it's sort of an A&R PR session where they can come, they can talk to. There's myself. There's somebody called Guz Harvey who is a singer-songwriter from Norwich, amazing at what she does. And then we've got Ian, who is the guy who actually works at the college, but he does a lot of management and stuff on the outsides as well. So it's kind of a way for these younger guys and these guys who are just sort of getting their feet wet in the industry to come to it, guys with experience like myself and Gus and Ian, and just kind of ask us anything, and we've overlooked their, because when they applied, they had to sort of send their brand, send all their socials, send everything, links to their music, and we looked over it all and sort of, you know, now we know exactly where to push them in the right direction or give them a little advice, or, you know, a bit of constructive criticism even, which is a big thing in this industry. If you can't take constructive criticism, you're in the wrong industry, I suppose.
I suppose you're there to be shot at, aren't you? But
exactly, mate. You know, and a lot of it, you know, you're in the public eye a lot as well.
Yeah.
You know, even in my genre, which is a smaller genre, it's so easy to just get, you know, you're there and people have got a lot to say about you and the art that you create, and you've just got to be kind of not blind to it all. But, you know, there's a difference between going and telling someone, oh, your song was cool, but maybe I didn't like this bit. And there's a difference between going, oh, that's crap, you know.
Yeah.
That's the big, you know, we're never going to approach these kids and tell them anything's crap, because art's subjective, you know.
Yeah.
What you think is great and what I think is great is 2 completely different things. So, yeah, constructive criticism is a big thing that we're doing with a lot of the kids, and just, pointing them in the right direction, really, and trying to, you know, when I was younger, I'd have done anything to speak to people who are experienced, you know, but I find that the arts industry, I made a pretty strong tweet about it yesterday, that we get overlooked constantly with support, but I'm a big believer that the government and the higher powers, they fear creative people, because creative people are the ones who think outside the box, and they start to ask questions and challenge, and, you know, without getting too deep and into that side of things, maybe that's why we get overlooked, you know. And I don't want to get too political and stuff like that, but
no, it's fine. I get it, and I hear you, and I think there'll be a lot of people listening. You know, particularly people who listen to podcasts as well, will have a love for, you know, the industry and know people that work in it and want to support it. So, well, before we close, I'll put a link to your Twitter, and I know there's a petition as well for people who are keen to get behind it as well. So we'll reference that. But we'll move on to football. But music, from what I gather already, will link in as well again, which is great, because it, you know, I think your relationship with football and music probably have sort of crossed over. So we'll look at that. So if we can start where we always do at the beginning then, Chris. So a little bit about how you became a Wolves fan and your first memories of being a fan, and how did your Wolves story begin?
I suppose if we started at the very beginning, it would be, my dad's a massive, massive fan, been a season ticket holder, you know, all my life at least. My first ever real memory was going to a Norwich game. It was at Molineux. I actually had to do a bit of research to figure out when it was, and it was easy to find because it turns out the article I read, the only game we ever lost to Norwich at Molineux was the game that I went to, my first ever game.
Okay.
And I was 6 years old. It was in '95, and I remember we lost 2-0. And I absolutely cried my eyes out because I didn't quite understand football. So I thought that was the be all and end all. I was like, we've lost. That's it. I remember, yeah. My dad took me in the South Bank. I must have, he must have got the seat next to him somehow or whatever with his season ticket. And I really enjoyed it. I really did. But then afterwards, I sort of dropped away from football for many, many years. Like, I grew up in the era of, I want to be a skateboarder, I want to be a rebel youth. I was a little grebo, basically. I was into rock music, I was into skating and all that. So football, as much as it was always there in my household, my brother's a huge United fan, believe it or not. And so in our house, we had dad who was Wolves and my brother who was United. So football was always around. But I stepped away for years and years, and I didn't even really... I'd always keep my eye on Wolves because I knew it kept Dad happy, and it's my hometown, so I was always happy for Wolves to win and do well. But the next sort of big turning point, I suppose, with me becoming a fan was when I was sort of 15, 16, would have been 2003 when we went to the playoffs final in Cardiff when we played. Was it Sheffield United?
United, yeah.
Yeah. And I remember I was a BMXer back then, so we were down the skate parks and stuff in town. And I remember we were riding through town, and we saw that town was quite busy. And then it clicked in my head because my brother and my dad had actually gone to Cardiff, so I was like, oh, it's obviously because the Wolves game's on. I remember me and a few friends, we stopped. It's at the back of town. I don't even think the shop's there anymore, but they had the game on in some sort of TV shop.
Mm.
So we watched the whole game through the window. No, literally watched the whole game. And, I remember the penalty save really well and stuff like that. So I suppose, I was probably 15, 16 then. So then I saw how the city reacted.
Mm.
And then straight away I was like, okay, so, this team is a big thing. I mean, I always knew Wolves were a big thing in our city and stuff, The Molineux's always been quite when we weren't even doing that well, the Molineux is a big stadium, a great stadium for sort of the level we were at some points. And but yeah, when I saw the city react the way it did, I was kind of like, okay, this is really cool. And then many, many years passed again. I went through my sort of party era, got all that out the way. Again, Wolves was always on the outskirts, but it was never full force. And I suppose when I first got back into it again, must have been the season before we got relegated to League One. Mm-hmm. So maybe like 6-7 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
And started to really take interest then. And it become, I suppose, all my partying days were sort of behind me. My, my rebel youth days were behind me. So I started to really take note, and I started to go to the games a lot. I was getting tickets, and, a couple of my friends got, obviously, little Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so started to really just get more involved, try to get to some of the games and stuff like that. And then, I mean, when we got relegated, I remember getting tickets to the games back then was so easy, like the amount of games I went to in that League One season.
Yeah.
Was that was when it really sort of, I was like, right, now this is it. I was touring quite heavily back then as well. So, as I mentioned to you before, like football became a sort of big link to being home.
Mm.
There was some years back then, maybe the year after we got promoted again. So the year we just missed out on the playoffs, we come 7th, did we? We like on goal difference. Yeah. I think I was on tour for about 8 to 9 months out of that year. So I was just constantly on the road, pretty much the whole of the season. So being able to like watch the games, or at least keep up with the games, it always felt like I had a little link back home. And, being on tour for that long can be quite sort of it's a lonely place. It's a, you know, you get very homesick and stuff like that. So Wolves became a big link to me, being able to know what's going on at home, you know, feeling that I've always got that, you know, I've got phone calls and texts and stuff, but like football's like all over the TV, it's represented everywhere. So I always had that big sort of link to Wolverhampton and being back home, which helped massively. And then before you know it, I'm subscribing to ESPN. I'm getting all this, that, the other, just so I can watch the games pretty much wherever I am. And so I started to really, really tank out then. And the amount of times I could tell you I've either stayed up till silly o'clock or set an alarm at 4 a.m., 3 a.m. to get up to watch the games, and just never looked back after that, really. And yeah, just, and here we are today, I suppose.
I think as well with that, though, Chris, I can relate only to a small extent, because when I went travelling, for example, I did a little bit of backpacking, as a lot of people do. And I remember being in Sydney and setting an alarm for 3 a.m. I'd come out from a night out and I was watching it sort of a 24-hour bar. I remember getting to the bar and the guy was like, "No, you're all right, you're not coming in," thinking I was still pretty gone from the night before. But I was literally just living on sort of, I want to watch this game, and it was Wolves against Sunderland in just a routine game. But it was that little bit, and there's something about Wolverhampton, and maybe it's not just Wolverhampton, it's probably anybody who supports a team and a connection with it. But as you referenced there, you know, in terms of being in and around the city centre, you know, with the skate park, being close to the city, the ground being there, you can't ignore it. That, as you say, being away from home, having those moments, that must give you that sort of goosebumps when you see it at home, as if you're kind of at home away from home. So I think that's, yeah.
It's like, I'm one of these people, you know, a lot of people see Wolverhampton as not a nice place. Oh, you're from Wolves, you know, but it might be that to them, but to me, it's my home. I love this place, you know. There's nothing better than me you know, when I've been on tour for 2-3 months, yeah, I've been to some great places. I've lived some great times. I've, you know, done amazing things. But when I get off that train in Wolverhampton train station, it's like the feeling. It's like I'm home, and you know, I'm ready, and it's a nice place. Like I always refer to it, and you know, I'll try my best not to swear, but you know, Wolves is a, can I swear?
Yeah, that we can edit, or we don't have to, or we'll just put one of those ratings on there to say.
Yeah. All right, and I'll use the, well, Wolves is a crap hole, but it's our crap hole, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a, you know, and I love that, and I love nothing more than flying the Wolves flag. I really do, you know. I wear my shirt as much as I can at some of the biggest shows I've ever played. I've made sure I've worn my Wolves shirt. And you can really see where the team's going, which is great. You know, people noticing us nowadays. You know, I was in New Jersey a couple of years back, literally in the tiniest little town. It's called, I forgot what Highlands it's called. It's literally across the bay from New York. But my missus' parents live there, so we were down there. I had my Wolves top on. We're walking down the road, like on the beach. Guy out of nowhere, like, "Oh, Wolves," and I was like, "Okay." He was like, "Yeah, you guys are doing really well now." He had his 2 little kids with him, like American dude from New Jersey, and like that must have been our first season back in the Prem. So yeah, 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, and straight away I was like, wow, you know, I imagine 10 years ago, unless you were walking around in a United top or a Liverpool top or anything, anywhere in America, people would have been like, okay, what's that shirt, you know? So
I was going to ask that question because I thought, you know, like you say, if you'd started out, you talked about sort of the 10-year anniversary of Pogman, but so in those early days when you were touring, yeah, you probably didn't really get much of a second glance. But now I suppose if you tour in America, or if you tour obviously Spain, Portugal and so forth, then and across Europe where they know the football, you must have noticed a difference in the identity and the brand and not, you know, the recognition of the team.
Definitely, like, you know, people see us as a serious team now, and obviously we get the stigma around us, the whole, you know, Portugal Wolves and Wolves-Chugal, whatever you want to call us, and I love it, to be honest. It is what it is, and It's great to see not even how much Wolves have come along, but how much football in general has come along, especially in America, because obviously America's where I spend most of my time, whether it be touring or obviously the missus is from Philadelphia, so I'm out there a lot as well. And just seeing how many people like just are really into it now, and how many people know about Wolverhampton, and Wolves as a place doesn't exist in so many people's in their world. But now we're doing what we're doing with the team. It's a little dot now on the map to people. So, and like I said, people have noticed the shirt many times. And another great thing we did was in New York it was earlier this year actually. We played Newcastle. Was it January or December maybe? Anyway,
but yeah, it's gone crazy this year.
Yeah, one of the before pre-COVID games. Anyway, it was last season. We were in New York and we were playing Newcastle, and I saw it was a 10 o'clock kickoff in New York time. Anyway, it must have been a 3 o'clock here. So I'm straight on Facebook, internet. I'm like, where can I watch Wolves in New York? And I found the New York Wolves.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So we ended up going down to the pub that they get together from every time. It was funny actually. The guy who owns the bar used to play for Fleetwood Town, and he's actually a huge Everton fan. But for some reason, that's the Wolves pub in New York. And I turned up, and there must have been 30, 40 Wolves fans there, like 10 o'clock in the morning, like ready to watch the game. And a couple of them were actually from Wolverhampton, but had lived in New York for years and years. And it was nice to see that there was quite a few Americans who have decided now that Wolves is their team. And there was one American lad actually who supported Wolves for like 15 years, so he'd been through the tough times as well. So
it's mad, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I've done a podcast recently with a guy called Blake. You'll have to check it out. He's come over here, and he's an American from California. And he adopted Wolves as his team, and he chose to study at Wolverhampton University just to get a season ticket to watch Wolves. He's gone from California to Wolfrunia, as I called it, which was amazing. And I think I like doing this as well, because there'll be people who, as you say, are perhaps expats who, and Wolves for them is, as you referenced there, is their way in. There's New York Wolves, there's Dubai Wolves, probably for everywhere you tour, there's probably a supporters club, which may be people originally from Wensfield or wherever, or locals. And I think, that's their little piece of home. I suppose it's like when people go abroad and want a cup of tea or whatever. It's that's their way in again, isn't it? So
it's mad, because when I was in that bar, we were watching the game, obviously, and I think we drew 1-1 actually. And just mad conversations, like talking about Major's chippy and stupid stuff like that. I said to the missus, because it's good because the missus is a big Wolves fan now. She actually played football. She got a scholarship to a uni in San Diego as a goalkeeper.
Wow, brilliant.
Which she never ended up following. But so she's a big Rui fan. She's a huge Nuno fan and stuff like that. So, but yeah, we're chatting away anyway, and I'm just telling the missus, like, I never thought I would be in a bar in New York watching Wolves talking about Major's chip shop. Like, like, it's such a surreal experience. But again, it all circles round to the fact that I support Wolves, and I was only in that bar because I wanted to watch my team play. So it's great to see just how far the team have not come as a team, quality-wise, but just how much we're growing as well. It's awesome to see. It really is.
Brilliant. Back, you talked about sort of you went in the early days and then sort of went away and then came back, I guess, at a tough time going down to League One. If you look back at your sort of supporting life so far, we'll do one negative or a number, and then we'll switch to the positive to end on. But what would you say is either the worst game you've seen us play, or is there a moment supporting Wolves when you thought, oh, God, why am I doing this? Is there anything that stands out?
Well, I must admit the League One era was actually quite good because we smashed it. So it was actually like nice to watch us sort of win week in, week out. And did we get the record in the end?
I think we did. I think we got over 100 points, and I think, as you're right, I think a lot of people liked it because we were going to different grounds which we hadn't gone for years. Like you said earlier, home games, you get a ticket, and fortunately it went well. I mean, it could have went the other way, but you're
Yeah,
right. I speak to a lot of people, and I think that was a good season, and for many that. Although we were in a lower level of football, to many it's one of their favourite seasons because of that, I think.
definitely. I mean, like, I remember one of the highs of that season. I was at was it Rotherham 6-4.
Yes, the home game.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I remember being there, and they equalised in the 86. Then Ricketts scored in the 80s, in the 90th, I think. Then McDonald scored that absolute like pepper.
And I
And
think they went on the pitch, didn't they, when they hit the
yeah,
side
we.
net? I remember that.
I think it nearly got called off twice. They basically said, if you're on the pitch again, it's game over. So that was definitely one of the highs of that season, definitely, because I just love them sort of nail biters, and the last few seasons we've had quite a few of them in the Prem as well, which has been good. But I suppose if we're going to go quickly down the negative route, it was my brother's stag do in Dublin. All of us had gone. There was about 20 of us. On the Sunday, I was supposed to be playing a gig in France, so I had booked myself to come back early. So I was going to come back to England. We were playing Baggies that day. Mm-hmm. So I was going to come back, watch us beat Baggies, and then fly to Paris and do this gig. Anyway, the night before the Sunday, the gig got cancelled. So straight away, I was like, I'm on this early flight now for no reason. But at least I can watch a Wolves Baggies game. Come home. It was the 5-1. Oh. And I was just like, the gig's been cancelled. We've just been battered by Baggies. I was like, this, is what and I had a massive hangover to have been in Dublin on my brother's stag do. So, I'd come back, there was me, my dad, a couple of dad's mates. Little Dan was there because he'd been on the stag do with us. And it was just a nightmare, that was. And it took a while to get over that one. It was just a bad weekend. It was weird because we were on such a high at my brother's stag do, and then the Sunday happened, and it was just like, for God's sake, you know what I mean?
And that's how it just changes your mood, doesn't it? And it's, you picture your weekend, and like you say, you've got your plans, and, you're having a great time with friends and family, and that's how football can get you. But, so, I mean, but fortunately, that seems a distant memory now, and it's just might be unfortunate that if we do get our revenge back, we won't be able to see it, so we'll be watching.
I know, mate. I know.
That's how it is. But, so, in terms of your highs, the Rotherham, any other games, or was it just that League One season? I guess, was it because you volume of games and now we're winning? Was that sort of?
The season we come up, the first season in the Prem was unbelievable. Yeah. Last season we've had so many high points. I never thought I'd be watching Wolves in Europe. Never mind being in Europe. We went out there to the Barcelona for the Espanyol game, and I was with my dad, I was with Dan and stuff. I was like, I never thought to be able to experience this, and I'm a very, very sort of just take it as it comes guy when it comes to football. I'm still riding the train of, we're Wolves. We've been, terrible for many, many years. I'm still really trying to stay positive in everything. And I remember the City game when Traore scored 2. I nearly broke the table at the missus' house because I picked her up. I nearly fell through the bloody table. I remember when we did Spurs. That was an amazing game. I suppose another low as well would be when Watford done us, because I was in Philly and we were watching it. And then that second goal went in, and we were late. We were actually late for something, but I was like, I can't not watch the end of the game. And so then we were late and we'd lost, so it was just it was terrible. But definitely, last few seasons, the City game, the Chelsea game when Jota scored, there's been just the last couple of years in general, has just been so great, It's just, I'm still really trying to just see the positive, ride the high. We were, and I know it's very cliche and everybody hates it, but we were in League One 5 years ago, do you know what I mean? And, we can't use that as an excuse all the time, but bloody hell, we were in Europe last season. It's a big jump.
It's mad, and there's you probably see the same stuff we see online, and you're right. You have to put it into context that you know, you should still be beating West Ham, Sheffield, and you can't go because we're League One. That hasn't affected that result. However, context is massive, isn't it? And the fact that, as you say, it doesn't seem that long away that you're going to Port Vale and then you go to Porto for one of you know, a better comparison. And yeah, so what was that Barcelona experience like? Because, as you say, that must have been a weird time because it was just kind of as COVID was setting in as well, wasn't it? You must have heard murmurs at the time, but you didn't want that to get in the way of your European experience, I guess.
Definitely. I mean, like when we were on the morning of the flight, because we'd gone down to Stansted to get the flight, me, little Dan, and another mate of ours, Phil, had gone down, and then the old guys, my dad and a couple of the lads, had come and meet us down there. And when we were in the car on the way down, I saw there was a bit of news saying first corona case in Barcelona. Like, oh, bloody hell, we've been flying there in 2 hours. Like, but it weren't, you know, nowhere near did we think we were going to get to the point we're at now. You know, we're on Zoom right now because we can't actually be in the same room as anybody. So, and yeah, it was a great experience. It really was. You know, to see that many Wolves there, everybody was having a great time. I know there was a bit of stuff that went on with the cops and stuff like that in that square. We were there a couple hours before everything sort of happened, and you know, I can't really comment on anything that happened there because I wasn't there. I don't drink, I'm sober, so like I know exactly when to leave and stuff like that. So I was sort of leaving way before anybody was really getting to that level of hype, I suppose. But just in general, again, you know, I'm in Europe with my dad and my best friends watching the team that I love, and it was just a great experience. You know, the weather was great and the singing in the square, everything like that. It was just awesome. And I suppose, I'm guessing you've been away with Wolves.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, I've been fortunate a lot really to go to a lot of away games. The Europe one was a bit different for me because financially at that point, and there were a few things going on at home, I couldn't go. And then the game, I thought I might be able to go, and I'd still got this ticket, but we could never go, was Greece. So I'd booked a flight out to Athens, I'd got my ticket, and I was like, I think it was at the point where I thought everybody had been to Barcelona and probably spent a bit and had been on the campaign. And I thought, could I get a ticket for this? And I think probably people wanted maybe more of an attractive tie than Olympiacos, if I'm being honest. So I thought, oh, I might get a ticket. And I got a ticket. And we didn't go in the end. And it was one of those, we just took a decision as a group because as opposed to the Barcelona scenario, things escalated really quick up until that game. And yeah, in hindsight, could we have gone for the weekend? But I wasn't going for anything other than the football, really. So it was one of those we made a call on. But I think you're right in terms of, you know, we talk about away games, and it's what people miss because it is that camaraderie. And I think what you would have experienced and what people experience when they follow Wolves up and down the country is, again, we you know, this is a common theme, but it's a good one. That little bit of home. So your little bit of home you talk about when you're in Philadelphia is also your little bit of home in Barcelona, or I don't know, even in London when you're in that away end and everybody's around you and you hear the accents. That's your bit of home as well, isn't it? You know.
Well, you know, and it's nice to just be. It sounds weird, but when I'm on tour, and I've been on tour for a long time, even hearing an English accent is just like so nice. And then if I hear a bloody Midlands accent, never mind a Dudley accent or something, it's like, you know, music to my ears. So like, you know, I want to speak to that person straight away. And football's, you know, football is it's a universal language. You know, whether you like Wolves, whether you know about Wolves, whether you don't, you can. If somebody's kind of into sport in any way, they will know about football or soccer, as they like to call it. And I'm just happy that it's travelled to every corner of the earth now. And I've been lucky enough to travel with my job a lot. And again, like I said earlier, no matter where I am, I will find that game, whether I'm sitting in an airport at 3 a.m. with it on my laptop, or whether I somehow find a bar. Because that's also a good thing about Wolves nowadays. With us being a bit more successful than we were, and with us being in the Prem, you find that the games are a lot more accessible now. You know, when we were in the Championship, it was so hard for me to find games when I was abroad. You know, I was having to find. I don't like to say it, but I was having to try to find streams here and there and stuff. And you know, waking up at 4 a.m. when I'm in Australia and getting something that's just buffering non-stop was just like, oh my God, I'm going around the bend. But now we're pretty much, there's a good chance we're going to be on a channel or, with ESPN Gold we use a lot, me and the missus in Philly. So they've just released a new one called Peacock, I think they're using now, which is just another thing that you got to pay for. But if it means I can watch the Wolves while I'm away, then I'll do it. So.
Brilliant. And I think just sort of before we close, you've referenced it really fantastically, but to sum up what being the series is part of the pack. So what does being part of the pack mean to you?
Again, like we've touched on many times, it's just a big, big link to home. And, the whole pack mentality, we're very, very lucky as a team that we are named after a bloody wolf. It's one of the marketing and the branding for our team is just, even the badge. I mean, look at the badge right there. It's so simple, but the wolf, everything, the way that we're doing it with the pack and stuff like that, it's great. And I think the way that the team plays, the way that Nuno's got the team set up, the way that everything's going on at the moment, the pack mentality is very strong. And the team, as well as the management, as well as the owners, they really, really, I think, care about the fans more than ever. And it's great to see. And I think that's what it really means to me. It's being part of a group that, whether you agree or disagree on a signing or a performance or whatever, at the end of the day, we all support Wolves and we all just want what's best for the team. And I suppose, it all just loops back round to that. I'm proud to be from this little crap hole that's Wolverhampton, and I always will be, and I'll always fly the flag, and I'll always have that connection to home wherever I am in the world, whether it be, America, Australia, China, wherever I am. I've always got that link to home, and I can always find it through football, which is great. So
brilliant. And I think this is it, mate. It's like we probably all slate Wolves, and we do as a city. But if I hear someone else saying it, my back is straight up. It's like,
totally agree. It's like, we can talk shit on it, but you can't.
Yeah. And it's one of those where, not so much these days, but if I do go out for drinks and Wolves, I think, it's all right, and I'm just about it, and it's because there is something about it, and also I think. And this isn't uncommon to Wolves. This is the universal thing, and with football, the fact that it does unite us. That as I mentioned in the introduction, I've been doing this series, and I'm talking to people from different walks of life. Some from Wolverhampton, some not, musicians, comedians, whoever, whatever. All different industries, and what kind of binds us together, and what we all get if we don't agree on a lot of things is that football club and our personal relationship to it.
Like I said, we all just want what's best, whether we agree or disagree on. Because you're on Twitter, you're on Wolves Twitter. It's a frustrating place.
Yes.
So there's some days I can't even go on there because I'm like, I'm going to read a comment that's going to wind me up. But at the end of the day, everybody's got their opinions. But if it's benefiting anything that's benefiting the club is the right thing for me. So, and we all just want what's best for the Wolves in general. And I think we're still heading in the right direction, so I'll take it as a positive and keep riding the train while we can.
We've got to mention more Twitter though. It is funny. It's one of those where if you've lost, it's just like, I don't want to look on it, but I do. And we know the people. There's people on there that will just throw, a grenade in there, and then they'll let it go off. And I think they quite enjoy it. But it is a world in its own. And even from like the Fancast account, you really got to kind of leverage it, because I don't like sitting on the fence. I think you've got to give your opinion, but you're always going to piss someone off, or someone's going to agree with you and fall into different camps. But that's I guess, because you can't discuss it in the pub anymore. That's kind of where you
exactly.
You down, so.
That's our sort of, our area now. That's the pin board for everybody to put up what they say,
Yeah.
There's been some very, very strong sort of opinions about, especially what's gone on in the last sort of 3-4 weeks with signing, who we're going to sign, who we're not going to sign, who are we selling, who are we buying, and some of the arguments we've had over the years. I know little Dan, for instance, the hate that man has for Catrona is and we've we've got into shouting matches, me and little Dan have over stuff, but again, it all boils around to. We had one recently, and within 5 minutes, we've got our arm around each other, being like, "We just want what's best for the club, mate." That's all it is. Like, it's nice to see the passion in everybody, I suppose.
Yeah. It is. Dan's brilliant for it because he'll just throw it into the most random conversation but he loves it. But we love him for it. But yeah, I mean, we could go on all night, and it's honestly a pleasure, mate.
Mate, thank you.
I think it's great to just sort of sit down virtually and have a chat. And I think what's great is you're showing us that you're someone who kind of spends a lot of this time, in hotels and DJs and festivals and so forth, but the club gives you that slice of home really, which I think we can all relate and resonate with. So I know this is a difficult question right now in terms of, as I say, I'll flip back to the current. What are your plans going forward? What's on the horizon? Are you kind of just waiting to see how the music will develop? You've got your projects you mentioned earlier. Is there anything what's coming up, or is that a difficult one right now?
I mean, I'm always working still on music every single day because there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes as well. I do a lot of work for like publishing and stuff like that. So stuff you might hear in adverts or stuff you might see on films, and we work sort of on that a lot, send that to the right company. So there's always stuff to do. It's just that the live aspect's been taken away, and I'm doing a lot of work with the uni and the college, like I said, which is really helping me plod along. And just writing really. And it's all I can do, I suppose, because when I'm not on tour, I'm at home just writing anyway. So I suppose I'm treating this as just a huge hiatus, longer than usual. And I'm trying not to change my routine too much because it's really, really easy to just get into that unhealthy, the world's gone to crap, so I'm going to do nothing. And it's like, when the gates do finally open again, I want to hit the ground running. I want to have a back catalogue of music that I made during lockdown. I want to be able to sort of, be ready to go, rather than just being like, all of a sudden, oh God, I've done nothing for 10 months. Like, so yeah, I'm doing as much work as I can. I really am. I'm trying to still find avenues for revenue because I've dedicated half my life to this industry and to this job, and I don't want to, step away from it. And so, like I said earlier at the beginning, as long as I can still work within the industry somehow and some way. But yeah, I suppose the 10-year will happen. It'll probably just be 10-year asterisk because it's actually like year 12 or whatever. So it'll be like Liverpool's, Liverpool's Premier League. Sorry. So, but yeah, so I'm just trying to stay positive, mate. Like a lot of us are in not just my industry and not just any industry, just in life in general at the moment.
It's difficult. It's difficult, and I think routine is massive, and I think you referenced that, and we've done bits on the spin-off podcast where we've talked about mental health, and I think routine's a big part of that as well. And I think you can get to a point where, like you say, if the work's not there, it's kind of like, let's get back into it and then flip back in. But to keep yourself active in whatever you do is great. And if doing even these podcasts for me, I find really therapeutic because it gives me a little sort of side project. And if people listening on their walks or their runs enjoy them as well, that's
exactly. That's great, you touched on mental health there, and that's a big thing I've been an advocate for the last few years in the music industry, because it's very, very rife in the music industry. And the problem is with our industry is we technically are a brand that we're trying to sell. So you look at people's Instagrams, you look at their Twitters and everything, and they're selling the high life. They're selling oh, look what I did. Look at this show I played. Look at this great thing I'm doing. When really, that's probably 5% of what's actually going on. And, you've probably saw yourself in the news. We're losing musicians. Not just musicians, but obviously I'm going to refer to that because of my industry. We're losing musicians to sort of suicide and depression and stuff like non-stop. And you can look straight away and be like, Keith Flint, for instance, Avicii, these Chester Bennington from Linkin Park, from the outside looking in, these guys have got the greatest life ever.
Yeah.
Well, I think, like you said, touching on mental health, there's a lot more to it, and I think I'm happy to say that we're at a point in life in 2020 where mental health and supporting mental health is becoming a lot more normal and a lot more, it's something that people are looking into a lot more, which to me is great, because what you see on the surface for a lot of people is nothing, to what's actually going on. And I imagine with this COVID stuff, people's lives have crumbled. And so, like you said, routines, healthy, I try to go to the gym every day. I've got back into that routine, which is good. Even the stupidest things of eating healthy, I don't drink anymore. And just mental health is just everything. It really is. And I can't, again, we could talk about that for hours, but that's...
No, but we could, but you're right, and I can relate to it. A lot of people can relate to it. But yeah, we could do a deep dive on that, and maybe that's something we can revisit at a later stage. But it's good to get that conversation talking. And as you say, you've mentioned something which I suppose I hadn't really thought about, but you touched on earlier in the conversation about the industry that you're in, that it can be lonely, it can be solitary. So you're looking for your home comforts, and if they're not there, and if your perception is different to what it is when you're sitting down, I can see how that could be difficult. So,
and that's why obviously something as stupid as a win from Wolves when I'm away, and I've say for instance I've been on a sort of 4 or 5 day run where I've not been back to my home base, which is obviously Philadelphia or wherever it be. A Wolves win in the middle of that little run when you're feeling lonely and you're feeling sort of can really just boost everything. So again, circling back around to Wolves, like that's how much it does mean to a lot of people, and that's really how much it does mean to me, because if I'm feeling really down and I'm lonely and on tour or whatever, whatever sort of mood I'm in, I see the boys come out and they get a win, and seeing the passion, and especially it was great when the fans were still in the stadium, because I could see the fans as well when I was watching the games, and it was great. And sometimes I might get a glimpse of somebody I know, and it's like, oh bloody hell, and something as small as that. So yeah, like Wolves doing well. Again, even it's probably far from it, but touching on the mental health thing, Wolves doing well matters really bad to a lot of people, and it can really help boost that sort of, it can turn that bad day into a good day, but unfortunately, sometimes it can turn a bad day into an even worse day.
it can, and it's finding that balance, and it's kind of treating them as the same and working with them in it really. But yeah, well, we're hoping that we're going to have many more good days to come. If you want to follow Chris, also known as Pogman, it's Pogman.
It's a zero.
Sorry, P0. Talk to me about the name, because if I don't ask you, I do know, because I had a look online earlier. People are going to say, why didn't you ask him? Where's that come from?
So you must remember Pogs.
Yeah.
Literally, it's as simple as that. I remember starting out back in maybe 2008. Maybe I was looking for my name. I wanted something that wasn't too serious, but wasn't too stupid, because there's a lot of stupid names especially in the dubstep world, which is the world I'm from. So we went. It was my friend actually, Lee, a really really good friend of mine, lives in London now, and he kind of come up with the name Pogman somehow, and I was just like straight away, I was like, right, I'm taking it. And for some reason, it was cool back then to put a number in your name, which for many years after became a burden because of Google and because of many other things. But the worst thing was, this year it was finally going to pay off, because the 0 we were going to be able to brand into the 10 so easily. So now, like I said earlier, even if we get to year 13, I'm still doing the 10-year anniversary.
So as I say, if you want to follow Chris, it's P0gman. Follow Chris on Twitter. And also from a Wolves perspective as well, because as I was just having a look earlier, you'll get some reaction as well. So by all means, I'm sure he's happy for you to get involved as well. But I wish you all the best. I wish you all the best for when the 10 years comes around. Everything that you're doing, I think what you're doing is great. From what I hear, that you're helping other people at this time as well, people up and coming. And I've got a lot of respect for you, for doing that. I think it's fantastic. And it's great for you to share your stories, and I'm sure people listening will have enjoyed them as well. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys very much. You know, I'm a big fan of what you guys do over at the Fancast and everything. So, just thanks for having me on, and obviously I'll continue to listen to you guys, watch you guys, stir the pot a bit on Twitter with you guys, and we'll keep it going, definitely.
Well, we know who stirs. He's been mentioned a couple of times, he's the chief stirrer. But no, yeah, on that, and as I said at the start, we really do appreciate you supporting the podcast. We do it because we love it, because we wouldn't do it otherwise, you know. So if you like what we do, leave us a 5-star review. We'll be really grateful for that. Follow us on all the channels. Follow us through this series, through regular pods. There's lots coming up to look forward to this season. But from both of us, until next time, we'll see you soon.